Welcome back to Digital PR Explains, the podcast that makes digital PR more accessible. And we attempt to break down a topic in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Britt Klontz, and today I'm joined by Lindsey Mastis, who is an independent journalist covering artificial intelligence and technology. Lindsey has won 4 Emmys and a regional Edward R. Murrow Award, and she's known for her ability to tell human-centered AI stories that inspire people to use this technology for good, which I'm all about. Lindsey, welcome to Digital PR Explained. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you kindly shared a ton of examples that you want to go through that are case studies for media relations teams that worked with you and you believe did a phenomenal job making these stories happen. I really want to focus on one that stood out to me. It's your story on using AI to learn how to play the violin. It was so fun. And it was a great example of a PR team setting up a meaningful media opportunity. Can you walk us through how the story came together and what you think made it a strong pitch?
Absolutely. So I get a lot of pitches, first of all. I mean, it's more than I can count, sometimes on a daily basis. And so the ones that really stick out to me are the ones where it is my beat. You know, I cover AI, I cover technology, and yet I'll get pitches for things like, Halloween cookies or, all kinds of different things, which I'm like, I love cookies, but I wouldn't report on them necessarily. So when it came to this pitch, what was really helpful is the University of Maryland. They have a really great PR staff, media relations team, and they usually pitch me more than one thing. And it's usually a lot of strong pitches. It might be one story that they think is timely. But what was really helpful is not only did they understand what my beat is and what I'm already airing, they gave me a few other ideas too. So I believe when it came to this one, and I'm trying to remember back to how it really came to fruition, but ultimately it was the setting up of the story that really sealed the deal. It was so easy for me as a journalist to walk into the situation and know, like, this is going to work out really well. The experts are here. I know there's going to be visuals. I know where to park. I know in a college campus, it's hard to navigate a college campus if you aren't on campus. So just giving me that confidence that I'd be able to get to the story in a timely fashion, shoot it within the parameters that I have, because at the time I was working an early morning shift. So that means that the photographer I was working with gets off at a certain time, so we had to make sure that it all fits into this really rigid time schedule that we were on, and they were able to accommodate. And so when it came to this one, I was like, oh, shoot, I've always loved violin. I have a violin at home. I don't really know how to play it, but I'm going to bring it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they knew I was going to bring it. I don't think I even told them ahead of time that I'd be bringing my own violin with me. But it was really incredible because I was able to pick up this violin that I have not touched in a very long time, and in a matter of minutes, improve the quality of my playing. It doesn't mean that I'm ready to hold a concert or anything like that. It doesn't mean that anybody would necessarily want to hear me play it for any length of time, but I could see a dramatic improvement from just me trying it out to sounding like I was on my way. Like, yes, I'm learning something. And the technology itself is really fascinating. I'm fascinated by AI, by the way. I've always loved technology. I've always been the person in whatever newsroom I've been hired into to bring tech with me and to try to inspire people around me to try it out. And believe me, there's a lot of resistance. But this one definitely, not only did I enjoy the story, it definitely captured the attention of my colleagues as well. They enjoyed having me do the story, ask me questions about it. It aired throughout several shows, so it was really good feedback. So I'm trying to remember that initial email, but all I know is that it sounded good. And then, and I've got to give a shout out to Rebecca Aloisi. She ran with it So I didn't have to do much after that. So it's one of those things where, yeah, I think this would be a really great story. Great. How about these times? I'm like, yeah, this will work for me. Next thing I know, I've got an email with background information, the names of the people I'll be interviewing, even some clips and some graphics, or I don't know if it was a graphic or a photograph of what the space was going to look like. So I could already get a visualization in my head of how this was going to turn out on television. I knew this was going to be a visual story. I knew this was going to be a good story. And then you add a musical instrument into it, and you've got more dynamics there that really captures a viewer's attention. And not to mention the subject matter, learning to play violin, or if you already know how to play violin, improving your skill set, that could appeal to almost our entire viewing audience. A lot of people who may not even have violin on their radar might think, well, gosh, with a tool like that, maybe I could do it too. And so when it comes to local TV news, especially, it has to be broad enough that most of our viewers would find it interesting or find it useful or want to stop what they're doing and come stare at the TV while this is on. So all of those elements were really, really helpful. And also, I love knowing who I'm about to meet ahead of time. I'm amazed at how often I'll get a pitch from a PR company and I won't know who I'm interviewing, or they'll give me a name and then day of, they'll switch it up.
No.
Not realizing, we do our background on the people we're interviewing. And now it's like I'm interviewing a stranger. I don't know if this person is going to be, if it's live interview, I don't know if they're good live. Like I got to check all that out. And way back when, I used to never interview somebody live unless I had talked to them first. In this day and age, how quickly everything's going, the time constraints on journalists, I have had to interview people that I've not met ahead of time, or I've not had a conversation with ahead of time. So it can be really daunting from a journalist perspective if we feel like we don't know what was about to happen. We have to anticipate in a live situation. This particular story was all taped, so no issues there. But just walking in and knowing what was going to happen, I could talk to my photographer ahead of time. In fact, I brought the chief photographer with me for this particular shoot, so he knew what camera equipment to bring. He kind of already had an idea of the camera shots that he might want. I mean, anything can happen when you walk into a space, and it's a creative process. So you can throw everything you prepared for out the window if it's going to be better for the story. But if you walk into a space and you realize, oh, I need 2 GoPros for this, I only brought 1. Or I really needed to bring extra lighting equipment. Maybe it's in the car, but on a college campus, you may not be able to run to the car and get it and still interview everyone who has to make it to class. So all of the logistics made this story so much better because we could prepare.
Yeah, that is actually, honestly, one of the first times logistics has come up on this podcast. So I'm glad you mentioned it. Another thing that stood out to me is just your beat. When people, maybe this is a bias that I have, but when people think AI, I think a lot of people might think ChatGPT and I don't know how to use ChatGPT to do certain things online. And I love how this story brings AI to life in another, I guess, area entirely. It's more, yeah, like you said, relatable to all types of people who might not even be technical or, think they're technical.
Right. And this technology that they're developing, it's twofold. And on one hand, it's a program that they're coming together with that will use your webcam or camera that's built into your laptop. You can set it up so it sees you. You can take the violin, hold it up, play it, and it will tell you, bring your elbow up, improve your stance. You need to move your feet apart a little bit more. You need to raise the violin up. So you don't even need to buy extra equipment. If you've got a laptop or a computer with a camera, once this program is ready to go out into the world, almost anybody can use it. The second thing is they have a haptics, so a wearable technology. And haptics is, the feeling. So it's like almost like a wristband that vibrates. So if you cannot play your violin, maybe you're at the airport and everyone around you is not wanting to hear music. I don't understand why they wouldn't, but if you're beginner stage, you may not want to.
Yeah.
That might not be a good idea to start out with. But you can actually practice, and it will do the vibrations and kind of let you know if you're doing it right. You'll almost feel like you're hitting the strings, even if you don't have your instrument with you. So it's a way to get better, even if you don't have your instrument. And that's really ideal to think of an apartment setting, or you want to rehearse late at night when everyone else is asleep. I always played piano growing up, so we had a keyboard. So I would just put my headphones on, play in middle of the night. I used to get grounded from my piano growing up. I got in trouble. So middle of the night, I would sneak down, put the headphones on, and I could play. I could definitely see where somebody has a use to try to play their violin. You imagine playing it, but it does help. It actually, you can get better even if you don't have it. And that was really eye-opening to me as well. So there's AI that's not just typing something into a large language model prompt. This is really taking all types of like an AI technology and popping it into a structure that really could resonate with most of us. And I'm not going to pretend to know the intricacies of how all the AI is developed because I'm not an engineer. My job is to bridge the gap between the people that are developing it that might be really great at explaining it in a technical manner, and then saying, hey, look at me. I don't play violin, and look at me improve. This is how it works. So that way, I'm like the guinea pig. That way people can truly understand it. I like to demystify the technology. I like to humanize the technology, and I'll use myself sometimes as the dummy so that people can say, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, and the visual component for this story in particular is so important, right? Because it would be very hard to do without actually going onto campus and testing it out yourself. It just explains the story and makes it more human, as you're saying. So besides logistics, another point that you referenced, or I guess suggestion that you referenced, or quality or characteristic about the pitch that you referenced, was that they provided assets. And in the segment, I saw you basically showed this AI being built, and it showed a green screen and a person wearing all of the things to train the AI, the sensors, thank you, train the AI to do this. Was that video one of those assets that was supplied to you?
Yeah, in that case it was. And oftentimes we don't want that. We want to shoot everything ourselves. But there's time constraints. By the time I got back to put the story together, I was like, oh, you know what? It would be good to have this. But that part was already done. So that part it wasn't like I could go back up to that area and get my own footage of it. That had passed. That time had passed. So usually we call it handout video. We usually try not to use handout video. We want to use something that we created ourselves. But I felt the need to show how it was created. And then as a follow-up, they pitched me on some other stories after this one. And I did get to go to what's called the Helocam room. It's 400 cameras in what looks to be like a green screen, but the green screen is all the way around. It's 360 degrees. You can literally lock yourself in there. And,
Wow.
And do it. It can make everything from like VR video to holograms. And I ended up doing a whole other story on stroke patients. They're using this technology they have like a medical actress that came in and pretended that she was having the symptoms of a stroke. And they have a doctor who's there asking, checking her vitals, I don't know what you call it, but checking to see if she's truly having a stroke, different sign. And then you can put on a VR headset and see through this actress's body of what's happening as the stroke is happening.
Wow.
And they said that the technology that they're using in the helocam room, it would take, I think, I can't remember what I had said originally, 2 hours or 2 days. Maybe it was 2 days or something, or 2 weeks. It was something that was a long time to teach this part of like the chapter, to teach medical students this part of it. And because of the visualization, because of the AI, they're able to put on a VR headset, ask their questions, look around at it 3D, your brain learns better. And they got it down to maybe learning this in like 2 hours.
Wow. Jeez.
I can't
That's
remember if it was 2 days or
fascinating.
2 weeks now, but it was a fraction of the time. And they tend to retain, their theory is that they retain it better.
Ah, okay.
When I did the story, they were going to be testing on it to see if it indeed made a difference for the medical students. So they had a test going in the fall. And then, their theory is that people were going to learn better from it. And I mean, I'm not a medical student, but I can tell you that it's like I can visualize it right now.
Right.
I remember it
Yeah.
that well from the experience of getting to see what it looked like looking through someone's body, which we are not used to doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in real
Yeah.
time.
So even though
Going,
I couldn't go up there and get the helocam footage myself for the violin story, it led to another story because I had so much interest in the helocam room.
Interesting. So the follow-up too, I'm assuming what led to you wanting to work with that team as well is because of how detailed they were with including information on logistics and all of these assets that you're welcome to work with, and also just details on who you'll be talking to and the more information on the experts themselves and how the technology works. So like making you feel as prepared as possible to know what to expect and to also seamlessly produce a segment and, like you said, visualize how it's going to come to life. So that's really cool and very interesting.
Confidence, it really is helpful for PR firms, media teams, media relations teams. And I mentioned Rebecca, but there's other people who were part of her team that were phenomenal, including like meeting us at our car, making
Wow.
sure that, helping us physically navigate through the campus, a lot of the other logistics, making sure that I had all the links, that I had everyone's titles right. It gives us confidence. And when it comes to television news or broadcast news or even digital, anything video related, if there's at all trepidation or feeling like you don't know something, it comes out in your facial expression, in your vocals. And you're trying to, as a journalist, you're trying to learn the technology or learn the story or learn what these experts are talking about. And even if you did your background research, you might have done even weeks of research. These people have years or decades of experience. So there's already this, kind of feeling of, oh gosh, I hope I don't sound stupid, as you're asking questions, but also asking the questions that might sound very elementary because the audience is with you, they don't know this either. So the confidence part is so helpful. That's why if you can take all of these unknown factors away, the technical things, the logistical things that might get in the way of us feeling like, yeah, I got this. I can't wait to tell this story. The story will be better if we feel confident. If we felt like things were going technically wrong, we got lost on our way there. Think about when you arrived to a meeting a little late because maybe traffic was bad. Are you paying attention to the meeting, or are you in your head about how bad was this? I can't believe I was late. Oh my gosh, that traffic. You heard nothing about what anyone else said. So you want to remove all that for the journalist as well. One of the other things that they did that almost honestly, very, very few times have I been in spaces where they do this. They gathered everybody early enough that there was no rush at the beginning. And in one of the cases, too, they even had like a breakfast laid out for all their experts and everyone
nice.
was there so that they could kind of just, relax a little bit before everything began. So nobody felt rushed. Nobody felt hangry. there's been so many times as a journalist where you're trying to interview somebody in between different deadlines that they have. They're rushed, and then you feel like you're trying to rush the interview to fit into their timeline. When you take all that away, the story can come to its true form because there's not a distraction, there's not a concern, you still have to have some time deadlines. Us journalists, if we like something, we could be there 16 hours straight. Amazing, I'm having a great time. But not getting lost ahead of time is really important. Feeling like I already know people when I walk in the room is really important. Knowing how to pronounce their names before before I have to say it on camera is really important too. So this media team is really incredible, and I'm doing more stories with them. I'm supposed to go back over there on Friday. I'll be doing a flight simulator AI.
Cool.
Really excited about, but yeah, I want to keep doing stories with them because I have the confidence that they're going to turn out well.
Yeah, that's so. I guess another question that I have for you too is, do you have any advice? It sounds like you have a really solid relationship with this team. Besides just being wonderful to work with, do you have any other relationship building advice for my listeners?
Yeah, the follow-up emails that this team, and there's a few other teams I work with too that do a really good job of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll mention a couple good things, but then I'm going to mention some things that don't work because I think you learn more from what
Yeah.
doesn't work. And I don't know how they time it, or if I've never talked with her about her strategy on when she sends me an email, but it seems like the timing is almost always perfect. And even if it's not, I'm one of those people who, I want to do this, I just can't do it right now. I end up not responding. I don't mean to not respond, but I want to respond and say yes. But then I can't right now say yes. I'm like, so let me just give it a day. And the next thing I know, a day comes, 2 days, 3 days. And then she follows up again when it's good timing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. I've been thinking about you every day. I want,
Yeah.
so it really, really helps. But there's no pushiness. There's no, nobody's getting their feelings hurt if that's not a good fit for the story or for the audience, that kind of thing. That's really good. I'll point out some things that don't work well that I've experienced. And again, 20 years in broadcast news. So I've experienced some really crazy things. I think most of us know that if a journalist says no to something, that, don't start calling them and threatening them.
Yeah.
That's
not the way to get on the best.
That's the way to do it. Like I've blocked people before that have been pitching things, but also journalists have to sometimes cancel last minute. We hate doing that. Realize that we don't like doing that. I mean, none of us like to have to reschedule something. It is usually not up to us. Something breaking news happened, or a colleague called out sick, or this thing that your boss needs you to do just came up and you are not allowed to say no to it. And we end up having to reschedule. And it's bad. One time I had, and this was earlier on, this was within the first 10 years of my career, I would say, I had somebody who called me up and told me how unprofessional I was for rescheduling. And I don't remember what the breaking news was, but it was a big breaking news story that we all, all hands on deck kind of story. I can't remember what it was because I don't remember the story as much as I remember this person calling, physically, literally calling me.
Oh my goodness, the nerve.
Yeah. So there's things like that that are a little bit more extreme. I don't want to scare anyone away, but I think I do see this sometimes where the aggressiveness starts to, and the thing is, like, you might get a story out of us once. That's it. That is it. We will send your email to our spam folder. We will block. We don't have time for that. And you're one of probably at least 100 pitches that we're getting in a day. And again, I got into this business being told you need to respond to every email. You need to respond to every pitch.
What? Wow.
Okay. That was back when people didn't email everything under the sun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Before there were like media lists or, Cision and
right.
all of the media list databases
I
too,
mean,
maybe.
I got into this business when we had maps, like
Oh,
actual maps.
like,
Like, oh,
oh
okay, I'm gonna
gosh.
go interview you. Where do you live? At the corner of so and so,
Yes.
and you look up in the map
Yeah.
where that is, and then you go to the right map page, and then you figure out how you're gonna get
You
there.
print it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah. Eventually, we had MapQuest, and but we used to have a tub in the live truck. There's always a tub in the middle of the live truck that was just filled with all kinds of maps from the whole region. No matter where you found yourself, there was a map.
Man.
Bicycle maps were really helpful too. You know, a lot of us have to cover crime, so when
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to figure out how to get down to the lake where they found something awful, like all these things. So, it's been an evolution. So yeah, when I first got into it, I was taught you gotta respond to everybody. And same with social media. We were taught at the beginning, respond to every comment. We're still being told to respond to every comment. Sometimes we're physically unable to. Sometimes the comments are awful.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you think it's normal and who knows what'll happen. So, that's a big thing to kind of note is we're in this day and age where anyone can send us an email. I may not know you're really from a PR company. I've had people pitch me on stories and there's something about it that I don't quite get.
Hmm.
I might get an email from somebody saying, oh, this person is available for interviews. And they might be from a major company. And I'm wondering why the email is coming from a company with a different name, right? If it's not clear that it's
Mm-hmm.
a PR firm, then I might think it's a crazy person just trying to get me to interview someone who they say is this important executive.
Right.
I have to trust the PR firm is a real legit PR firm as well. So that's all part of it too. And I'm trying to think of a couple other things. Know the reporters or anchors beat.
Mm-hmm.
If
So
you,
important. So
yeah, if
important.
you think they're going to be a good fit for it and it's not their beat, that's okay. You can still pitch them, explain maybe why. Just say, hey, I really thought of you when it came to this. I know you usually cover AI. I love Elton John, for example.
I was about to ask.
Yeah,
I'm a
that's
huge Elton John fan.
yeah.
Lindsay, I have a crazy Elton story. I can't believe this is coming up.
Well, I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, I cover AI and tech, but if you pitch me an Elton story, I mean, yeah, there is wiggle room for some of our past
Always
projects
wiggle
as
room for
well.
Elton. Yeah.
Right. And my boss was able to she's amazing, by the way. I really enjoyed working with her. And this was at my last company. I work for myself now. I'm an independent journalist and I also do some freelancing and workshops and public speaking and all that. But she knew how much I love Elton. So when he got the Gershwin Prize, he and Bernie Taupin, she made sure that I was the one covering it.
Oh,
Switched my
very
schedule that
cool.
day and everything so I could stay up late at night to go to the concert and to
Oh my
cover it and to be
gosh.
on the red carpet. So, yes, it's like if you have a gut feeling that
Yeah.
this particular reporter or anchor is a good fit and it's not their beat, you can reach out to them. And also, if it's not for them, but it's an amazing story, you can say, if this isn't for you, but someone else on your team who would want to do it, I'd love to connect with them and get them the right people. But especially when it comes to TV, let us know what the visual is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't need a talking head. I got talking heads out the wazoo.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
so many. I get so many pitches on so and so can talk about this, so and so can talk about that. I mean, and I have the experts that I might go to that I've already I've got a relationship with already. What I need is something that I can demonstrate, that I can show, that viewers can see and get excited about, and that is easy to understand, even if it's complex.
I love that. We've yet to talk about logistics or video, or I guess visuals, not video, sorry, visuals, and just how important it is to outline what it is that you're going to be able to experience and how that might come across on video. With, of course, giving you, I'm sure, like creative freedom as well, because you have a whole team of creatives who also can provide feedback and really help capture and tell the story and make tweaks.
Right. And there's somebody on the media relations team at UMD who they're really good about saying, like, not imposing, but kind of like, hey, if you did it this way, it would look really good, but in a
Nice.
way that isn't telling us what to do, because that's the
Okay.
thing is, especially with, say, and it depends on who you're working with. Like I would work with a whole team of photographers, and, you have some photographers who love, like, yeah, give me suggestions. You have others that are kind of like, who are you to tell me what to do?
Yeah, yeah. No,
It-
understandable.
it's a fine line, but that's why if ahead of time, if you kind of show, hey, this is what can be done, or hey, sometimes we have people go up to this little overlook here, and it's a really great view. If you're interested, I can get you up there. There's ways to phrase it and to not, because I have been in situations too where someone's like, you should do it like this, and you should say, and you should ask this question, and I'm like, we have openings if you
Yeah.
apply.
Right. That's really good advice. I like the way that she phrases that too. That's helpful. Great. Well, I think this is a good moment to ask you if you have any other shout outs that you wanted to share. That's
It's
one of my favorite parts of
wonderful.
this podcast. So
Yeah,
definitely want to make sure we have time for that.
I do. So this is someone who I have since become friends with, Sarah Andrew Wilson. I interviewed her about how to start an AI business. And her interview was really great. It was a really well-received story. But since we've become friends, I had told her like how great she was as an interview. And she's like, well, I had ChatGPT's help. I go, what do you mean? ChatGPT, a lot of people don't realize that there's an audio function. So it
Mm-hmm.
can actually talk to you. So what she did is she said, this is the interview I'm doing tomorrow. Do a mock interview with me. And
Mm-hmm.
she practiced her interviewing skills with ChatGPT before I interviewed her.
Smart.
So I
I
thought
love
that was
it.
really amazing, especially if you're new to it. And especially if you're going to do a live interview, if you've not done a live interview multiple times. You might have had one success live. You need more practice. Like live is crazy. Anything can happen, especially if it's remote. You could end up having music. If you have something, in your ear being popped through your ear, they could hit the wrong button. And next thing you know, you hear everything the director or producer is saying. And it may be crazy stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
you might be like, camera angles, what are they talking? It might not even be professional. It might just be their conversation about something else on the side. So like you have to be prepared for some of that. So I always say, if you can use I'm not saying you have to use ChatGPT, you can call your mom. That's how I always practiced when I was coming up through the business. I was called my mom, or I'd record myself.
Mm-hmm.
While also you can pop up on YouTube, there's background noise. Like you can just
Mm.
have background noise, practice trying to keep your attention to what the interview might be, so that if you are planning to be interviewed in a loud environment, that you're prepared for that loud environment. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that you can do to prepare if you're part of a PR team that you can get your interviewee prepared for. Another shout out I want to give, it's a PR firm that reached out to me that represent a robotics company. And I love robotics. That's why I say AI and tech, because not all robotics is AI. And I kind of love robots. So,
Mm-hmm.
and in this particular case, they're not located in the DC area, and they really don't have a presence in the DC area where I'm located. And I really wanted to find a way to do a story with them. They remembered that. And one of their robots was heading to Capitol Hill for a Robots on Capitol Hill Day. This was
Oh, neat.
almost 2 years ago now, because I've been covering this for a while. And they were able to make sure that I had all the information so that I could get into the event, because sometimes most Capitol Hill events, as a member of the press, you can get into, but some are closed press, or you can't get in. But in this one, I was able to, and I got access to a lot more robots, which was so fun.
Man.
And on top of that, I was able to highlight their company. So I ended up getting multiple stories out of that. And their particular client ended up getting a whole story highlighted, with
Yeah.
their technology.
We'll link to that in the show notes too, because
Yeah,
you
that
did
one
send
was,
that to me. That video was so cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun. And that was the overview one that I sent you just so that you kind of see what the event was. But I really do want to urge media teams and PR teams to not worry about it being in an enclosed environment where only their client is being highlighted, because I may not be able to do that. I also have to be careful, make sure it doesn't sound like an advertisement.
Yeah. Yeah.
But being able to go to an event where your client happens to be, and you made it really easy for me to talk to them, and I have their background and I have some talking points that I know they're expert level in. Now I have a confidence that when I get to this big event, and it might be intimidating to the reporter as well. Sometimes you go to these events and everybody seems to really be, focused in on what they're doing, and you just showed up with a whole bunch of equipment. Sometimes it's in a wagon. A little embarrassed with the wagon. We're like, we're coming with a wagon full of equipment. Do you want to talk to me?
Oh.
It can be a little overwhelming sometimes. So if I'm walking in and I'm saying, hey, I know you, or, so-and-so told me to reach out to you when I got here, and I'd love to talk with you about that goes a really long way. It really, really does. So it's like we have to kind of share the wealth sometimes, and it ends up working to your benefit. I try to be as journalistic as possible, but we're all still human. And when something is made easy, you tend to gravitate toward it.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe one day you'll have a robot instead of a wagon, but hey. Until then.
I brought that up. I just spoke recently to the Online News Association, and I was talking about the robotic dogs. So our photographers end up having back issues or different types of injuries that happen because of all the equipment that they have to hold. And even when I was starting out in the business, some of the photographers, when I was really young, that were more near retirement age, they were having to buy them more like consumer cameras that you would get just from like a Best Buy or a Walmart, because backs could no longer handle the really big equipment. And they had the really big equipment too. Like what you see now is even better than it used to be. It used to be even bigger, heavier. The first time I ever picked up all the equipment, I was in college, and I went to Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. River Region Evening Edition was the name of the daily news show. And I was going to go shoot my first story. And they had a lighting kit. And I had the camera, a big camera. And these things they shot in color, but the viewfinder was only black and white.
Wow.
So if you didn't color correct the right way.
Oh my goodness. That's so much to remember.
You'd come back and they'd be green or purple or just unfixable, horrible.
I thought my experience was difficult. That sounds sounds like a nightmare, because then you go back and you're like, oh, I shot something so amazing and the color's not right.
Right. And you don't have it. So you got back to the newsroom, put that beta tape in. So I put all this, I had the lighting kit, the tripod, the camera. And by the way, the lighting kit, remember, at the time, these were big. These were not LED lights. These were big lights that if I one time did not put it up correctly, it burned through the plastic, fell on the floor, burned a hole in the carpet, and then burned the arm as I tried to get it up.
Oh my gosh.
And I was okay. I had colleagues who had to get like stitches, like all kinds of they had major burns. They've had cuts from things. So anyway, all this equipment is on me and I fell over and I couldn't get up. I physically could not carry all this equipment. I had to get someone to help me carry the lighting kit. The lighting kit would have, because everything was so big at the time, it had sandbags in it. So we were also carrying sandbags around.
That gets heavy.
Yeah, because the lights were top heavy. So you had to have, and our photographers sometimes have sandbags with them. So when you see them carting around all this equipment, it is cumbersome. It's hard. It is hard work. And that's why if you can just make it easier, anything that you a little bit easier, let us park it up in front, get some crazy pass. Let us park right in front of the building on the sidewalk. I mean, make sure people can get through the sidewalk, but again, please save our backs, save our arms,
Yeah.
save our bodies.
It'll go a long way
Yeah.
for everybody.
Right. And now that I'm doing everything on my own, I'm trying to shoot with like mainly my cell phone, a small rig, a tripod
Hmm.
that isn't very heavy, but I'm a petite person. So it's heavy to me.
Yeah,
It's not
right.
heavy to somebody who's used to carrying, 100, it shouldn't be 100 pounds worth of equipment. I'm being a little dramatic there. But that's the thing. It's just making it so whatever barrier you can take away that keeps us from just focusing on the story. That's what's really, really helpful.
Wonderful. Those are very, very helpful tips. And again, I have not had anyone talk about that. So thank you so much, Lindsey. I don't know if you listened to any of the previous episodes, but I'm just like, thank you. This is great. Because, yeah, we haven't talked about logistics, visual. Well, we have talked about visuals, but more of like what to think about when you're pitching the visuals and the whole process when working with someone like yourself. So thank you so much. Is
Thank
there
you.
anything else that we didn't discuss that you wanted to make sure you squeezed in? We went a little over, so I might have to make this into 2 episodes, but that's okay.
Oh gosh, sorry. I'm a talker.
No, I'm not. This is great. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, no, I would say, a lot of times people ask me, being on TV, are you ever afraid? Are you
Mhm.
scared? Do you get nervous? I only get nervous when there might be a technical difficulty or a
Mm.
logistical issue. As long as we can focus on the story, I mean, that's the fun part. It's all the stuff that might go wrong that distracts us.
And by doing everything that you just told my listeners to do, they will be one step ahead and making sure you're not nervous. And it should all be a smooth sailing process from there. So I love that.
Well, thank you so much. This has been really fun. Yeah, I've been in the business for a while, and it's so nice to hear people discuss, how to make it so that the story is what's being highlighted versus the process.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on and being so gracious with your time and for all of the examples and shout outs that you shared too. They make my day. So I'll make sure I share this with them. And yeah, thank you again, Lindsey.
Thank you.